I got 80 chairs. So I was keeping my fingers crossed that we have enough chairs for everybody, so I guess we're okay. My name's Matt Davis. I wanted to welcome everybody to Triumph Rescue. I see a lot of new faces out there, so I want to welcome everybody. I know a lot of people have driven quite a distance to be here, so I truly appreciate that. It's nice for once that it's not snowing. We've lucked out on a nice day, although it's a little cold, but you know, it sure beats having all this food and 10 people show up. So that's I'd eat hamburgers for the next 2 weeks. So that's a good thing. I did want to introduce our staff here real quick. Brad does our interior work. Hi guys, welcome. Hi Brad. If you were here last year, he did a demonstration on interiors, and then he's going to do another little talk here in a minute. We have Ross here. Ross does our metal work, and he's our IT guy. So I don't know whether that's... He gets a lot of crap when things don't work, so so far it's been okay. We have Shane does a lot of our mechanical work back there. Ed's our cameraman, but he doesn't work here anymore. He used to work here. We got Chip and come on. I'm having a brain fart. Mike. Sorry about that. It's a one here. And Ron. Those guys are part-time, and they kind of drift in and out as we need them. So they're all they help us very much, and I appreciate all the work for us. Josh, he does British wiring for us, and been doing that for about 6 years now, so that's been working out pretty well. My wife Beth, of course. You might talk to her. I should, in order to keep the peace, I should probably thank her now because I won't remember later. But she did a lot of the prep work, and you know, so thank you. Okay, I've done my due diligence. Tom. And where's Tom? Right here. There he is, Tom. He's the quiet one. That's why I forgot about him. So Tom does all of our painting. He does our body work. He painted the Aston, painted the Spitfire. So usually how the course of things go, it goes into that room first. Ross has his turn at it, and then when Ross is satisfied, it goes back to Tom, and then Tom has the kind of final say as to whether it gets painted or not. So he's got the overall. I mean, Tom really has the brunt of it, because when it doesn't turn out right, you know, it's like, well, which doesn't happen very often, thank God. But he does. He has a very important job here. So, but I thought what I do is I talk about. We're going to talk about basic maintenance here today, and I'm sure you guys have all been through it, and everybody has their own way of doing things. But the first thing I wanted to just touch on real quick is just basic safety, and I know it's not uncommon to get kind of sidetracked, maybe not think about things the way we should. Even something as simple as when I come in that door every morning, and the first thing I do is I take a sniff of the air, believe it or not, as I take my first breath. And I'm like, well, I don't smell smoke, so that's a good thing. And you know, I don't smell any gas, because, as you know, it's not uncommon to walk in the shop and you're like, what's that smell? So there's no difference between walking in here and walking in your own garage. And you just want to absolutely be careful after your car has been parked for a couple months that you double check everything before you start it. Go through some, even have a checklist. I was talking to Paul before. It can be something very simple, doesn't have to be elaborate, but maybe some kind of a little check sheet that would say, A, B, C, D, and I'm sure we all have our own way of doing this, but it's important. The other thing, as you most of you know, I've been a volunteer firefighter for a long time. And I can really vouch for being safety conscious and fire conscious. Thankfully, I hope it would be everybody's worst nightmare would be having a fire in their car. But you really should be prepared, have a fire extinguisher in your garage. You know, I'm not saying that a good charged cell phone isn't good either, but just to have a little, something as simple as even a small one. It doesn't have to be. This is a CO2, which is heavy, works very well, and you can cool a beer with it too in the afternoon. But you know, these are very expensive, but they don't leave any residue. So the CO is a good extinguisher. This is actually a small halon, which is a great little fire extinguisher. Nice thing about halon is that it doesn't leave any residue, very little residue. The only problem with the halon is that it doesn't necessarily cool what's burning. So if something gets hot enough, it's not uncommon that something might reignite or rekindle. And there's only about 8 seconds in this. So you really want to think about, you want to just knock the fire down, regroup, see what happens, and then go back after it. So, I mean, I can't relate to everything that I can't teach you everything I've learned over the last 25 years. But the key thing here is that hopefully you have to use it. You don't use it on your car, you want to use it on your friend's car. But you still want to be prepared. And, you know, like I said, you know, you only get about 8 seconds maybe of discharge time. Yeah.
Matt, can we ask questions now?
Oh, absolutely. Anybody can ask whatever they want. If I can't answer it, I'm sure somebody in the audience can answer it.
Okay. The halon extinguishers, I have one, but I don't have a pressure gauge on it.
Yeah.
How long can I expect it to still be good if I need it?
A dry chem or halon?
Halon, it's a halon.
Halon really, I was really thinking that just about any halon should have a gauge on it. But the bottom line is, you know, it should last. If there's no leak, it should last forever.
Okay.
But I have no way of knowing that until you have, unless you have a gauge, because you can't see whether it's, I mean, the CO doesn't have a gauge, but these should have it. And, you know, I'll just explain real quick. So I wouldn't know.
I didn't think I had a gauge on it. But
Some
years ago.
Some halon have it underneath, on the bottom, looks underneath.
I mean, weight-wise, would it be, not that I would know that it was any lighter or heavier, but would it be?
You can weigh it. I mean, the halon in this like 2 pounds, sorry, you'll have maybe 1.3, 1.4 of halon in here. So you could weigh it. I mean, that would be a good alternative.
What would be registered, correct me if I'm wrong, registers for it's good, it will stay good, right?
Oh, as long as it's in the green, you're fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There really is no maintenance for a halon extinguisher. If you guys, the most prevalent fire extinguisher today is probably a dry chem. That's what most people carry, dry chemical. It'll do, you know, it's the whole realm of what you want to put out, basically. Dry chems are a real mess if you've ever seen one go off. Hopefully it was in your friend's car. The powder can be corrosive, so you want to make sure that you get it cleaned up right away because it will be a real pain in the ass to do that. Dry chems, here again, you know, if you had the same thing, dry chem basically where all these work, even CO work with, they take away the oxygen. So you want to be careful not to use a halon. If your wife's still in the car, make sure you get her out. Because this depletes the oxygen. So that's just a little tip. So anyway, long story short, dry chems make a mess of the most prevalent fire extinguisher out there. But you still only have a small window of opportunity to get your deal done. So you know, here again, you're only talking about maybe eight seconds on the dry chem. And here again, you know, just try to knock the fire down, take a step back, regroup, and then at the same token, if you have a friend, your wife or something, make sure somebody calls 911. I wouldn't hesitate to call 911. It's there for a reason. Call those guys, make sure they're on the road, every second counts. So whether it's a medical emergency, fire emergency, whatever it is, you know, just call them. I mean, the best thing that happens to us at my age, you know, if I don't have to worry about dragging hose, putting an air pack on, any of that other crap, I just assume get to the car, okay, everything's fine, we can go home. No problem. So it's never an issue. But the only thing I didn't want to dwell on it, but I just want to make sure that, you know, it's just one more thing to think about. You know, make sure you have a fire extinguisher.
What are you talking, a 2.5 pound like that? What size flame are you talking about that you should attack? I mean, if the thing is roaring away, that's not different.
No. Well, it's always life safety first. So it's gonna be your, whatever you feel, it's kind of like a comfort level. If you feel that you can do some good, then certainly you can try it. This will knock down a ton of fire. You know, it's not the end all. It's not like a big shiny truck pulling up with 1,500 gallons of water on it. But it'll certainly, if this is used correctly, it will knock down a lot of fire. But, you know, if the tires are burning and the whole front end's gone, then you might as well save your money and just put this away. You can call your insurance agent. So it really depends. But, you know, the other option would be to, if you were to use this and then maybe somebody else, especially at a car show, you know, there might be a ton of fire extinguishers around, maybe they could at least get it knocked down, you know, at least somewhat under control, so when somebody comes with something bigger, you know, they can take care of it.
So you use Halen like a CO2 at the base of the flame?
Yeah. Yeah, you want it, the problem is a lot of times you may not be able to get to the seat of the fire. It really depends on where it is in any place, you know, I mean, all the cars are different. So it might be in the back of the car, it might be in the front of the car. You're gonna have to figure out how to open the hood. If it isn't, you know, some of us aren't familiar. I mean, I'm not familiar with every car on the planet, so, you know, sometimes it's hard to get the hood open. But but once you open the hood, have a game plan, because things are gonna start to change. Okay, so you wanna make sure you do that.
Just quickly, in terms of capacity, like you showed a large CO2 extinguisher versus that's smaller in size. Now, is there the size equal time of spray, or are all the CO2s larger in size?
Once no size matters.
I think it does. But to get to your point, if you go to like a 5 pound, you might have 15 seconds of discharge time. So you might get maybe 18 seconds of discharge time, depending on how you. Go ahead.
But comparing between the two, like the CO, is it naturally larger than the Halon or the dry chemical, or is it? Do you get more time out of that larger one that you have on the CO2?
Certainly, you'll get a little bit more time out of it, but it's a different.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking the equivalent.
But the thing about if I was going to, it's good thing you silence your phone.
This is my wife calling, see how things are going.
She says, "Hi, honey."
Bring home food.
It's going to snow today. So, you know, it depends. A lot of us don't have a lot of extra room in our cars. So that has a bearing on what you would carry also. Joe, go ahead.
You ever use those little aerosol types that you can keep behind your seat?
I haven't, but they're, we have a can of that here. I'm trying to remember what it's called. We have like a spray bomb can of, and it does work.
Yeah.
It actually does work. It's called Fire Stop or something,
Yeah,
I don't remember.
yeah,
But yes, it does work. I just think, I don't, in fact, maybe a few years ago, we did try it out back when we did our burn. But I'm not exactly sure I can actually see it. But the thing about those, they can be a little funky sometimes in that you don't know. I mean, sometimes if the air leaks out of those things, if they've been rolling around in the trunk or someplace, you may go to use it, it may not work. But, go ahead.
From your experience with car fires, what's the major cause of it? Is it oil leaks, gas leaks, or electrical?
Electrical is normally a slow, very smelly, you almost have a heads up that something's going to happen, because you get that, as things start to melt, as we say, we let the smoke out of the wires. It has a tendency, you'll know. I mean, if it's in the engine bay, you may not know, but usually you can smell that beforehand. But they're all, I don't know whether there's any real difference depending on what is worse than the other, let's say. I mean, certainly gas is very flammable. Oil at the right temperature. We've had a car in here that had the engine grenaded, and then the oil went all over the manifold and it started a little fire. So, you get things to the right temperature and something's going to happen. So I don't know how to distinguish. I can't tell you what is actually worse than the other. But I think with an electrical fire, most of the time you may have just a little bit of a heads up.
I mean, most people have some oil leaks going on somewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And often with the valve cover gaskets, that oil leaking down on the exhaust manifold,
Yeah, it's probably amazing that we don't have more fires.
I read a while ago that the EPA doesn't like halon.
It doesn't.
Still buy halon?
It's a derivative. It's a eco-friendly gas now. It's not the same because the halon is depleting the ozone.
Yeah.
So now it's, I can't remember what it's called, the numbers change, but it's basically the same thing.
But would it be labeled halon or labeled something else?
It's labeled halon, but it's got a number. It just doesn't say halon anymore. It'll just say, halotron or
Haloron or
yeah, something like that. So, but it works very good. Absolutely works very good. So that's my spiel on fire extinguishers. Sorry to run on about that. I just, it's very important to me. The other thing, if you guys do have dry chem in your car, real quick, just take it out once a year and turn it upside down and smack the bottom. Make the powder move, because the thing's going to be about maybe 3/4 filled with powder, and the rest of it is just, they put the agent in there. So just make sure you shake it, smack it with a hammer, get the powder moving, because if you don't, it gets caked up, and then it won't work. Okay, I'm going to use it. So that's my spiel on fire extinguishers. Let's see. Of course, we want to check. I got to look at my notes here real quick. We got to check. Certainly, we want to check your tires. A lot of us tires might be 10 years old in our cars, maybe even longer. It's not uncommon to see a car come in here with original red line tires on it. At this point, I mean, they look great, but they don't necessarily work great. So, you want to keep an eye on that. Battery, batteries are always a good subject. There was probably a slide up here before of a battery that exploded on a customer's car. Thank God we didn't do it, but he had a trickle charger on it, and for some reason it must have gotten it overcharged, and he went to undo the trickle charger, and the thing blew up. And acid went all over his top. We ended up painting the car. Went all over the motor. He was okay, fortunately. So it happened so fast, you wouldn't even really be almost able to react to it. So we use trickle chargers here. It's not uncommon to see them on some of the cars. I use them at the house all the time. They're great. I don't really have a this is an interstate trickle charger. It seems to work very well. It's very simple. But, you know, there's still a slight little bit of caution is to be used. I mean, the instructions right there on the side of it, but these work very well. But I think if you got in them, I don't know how many people use triple chargers, or maybe you take your batteries out, maybe you put them inside the house, I don't know where you store your cars. But leaving a battery in a car, if nothing else, we install a lot of battery cutoff switches here. Just a simple one, it sits right on top of the battery. It enables you to turn the battery off when you're not with the car. And it can be a good idea to do that, depending certainly if you don't. Sometimes it's a pain in the neck to pull the battery cable off and have it hang there, but certainly the cutoff switch has been working very good. And I would just about every car that goes out of here has a cutoff switch in it. So it's a good idea. But the triple charger, you know, it's a really good idea to keep the battery charged, even though you're not using it. This you can probably pretty much set it and forget it. It'll just sit there and it just cycles. Little green light on there tells you when everything's charged, so it works very well.
Is there much difference between them? Because I know the Optima battery suggests you use their battery tender.
You know, we had a customer come in with an Optimum battery, and he said, well, you know, you have to be careful what you do with it, and blah, blah, blah. I went on the internet and tried to, you know, look at this thing so I didn't do anything stupid. But the bottom line is, I just put the charger on it.
Tender is a tender.
And it's fine, you know? So, I mean, we figured out he had another issue with the car, but, you know, the bottom line is it wasn't anything special. So, that was just my way of doing it. But I have heard that with the Optimum battery. So, trickle charger, battery, very good idea. And I think you also want to just look at things like, you know, how long has it been since you had your fuel filter changed? How long, you know, just simple things like that. And, you know, that leads me to the fuel. Of course, now with ethanol and the gas, that can really be a pain. So a lot of us, I went on the internet again and I was looking around for stations in this area that have ethanol-free fuel. There's one in Allentown. There's one in. There's one out in Harrisburg, Mechanicsburg, or something maybe. So the bottom line is. So I think if ethanol in itself isn't necessarily corrosive, but it's the stuff that ethanol carries with it that's corrosive. So it's like alcohol. It actually is a form of alcohol, but what it does is it absorbs all the moisture. So before you used to drop a thing of dry gas in your tank to take care of the moisture. Well, you wouldn't dare do that today, because if you drop a can of dry gas in your car with ethanol in it, I just don't know whether the car's going to run halfway decent, because you're already dumping alcohol in it, and then with the fuel, some of the fuel stabilizers have alcohol in it, and that's one of the other things. I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit, but you also want to look at what's in the fuel stabilizer you're using to make sure.
Well, doesn't the ethanol also lean the gas out? They recommend enriching up the gas a little bit.
Yeah, it's not uncommon here. It burns at a different temperature. I'm not a chemist, but it definitely does burn different than gas. But it's the corrosive properties that come with the ethanol that are our problem. Our cars are not designed to run alcohol. They're actually designed to run gas. So we have a lot of metal components, we have a lot of rubber components in our car that the new cars today don't have. And that's the reason they're able to get away with it. But something interesting on the internet again, sorry. But something interesting was that they don't add ethanol to gas until it gets to the terminal. They don't push gas from Texas to Marcus Hook over here with ethanol in the gas because they're afraid that it's going to create too much water. It's going to corrode the pipes. So isn't that nice? So the oil companies won't put it in their pipeline because they're afraid of what's going to happen. but we have to buy it at the gas license. So I don't want to get political, but, I'm not in favor of ethanol. But, so, he's absolutely correct. It does create less BTUs per gallon, whatever you want to call it. It's not uncommon. Today, when we have a TR6 in here, we'll have to put different needles in it. We end up having to close off all of the orifices in the carburetor because the gas just does not have any pizzazz. So you can take, let's say, a TR250 needle and put it in a TR6. You can take, I'm trying to remember the number for the JAG needle, but you can take a JAG needle.
B1E.
B1E. That's what we have here. That's okay. That's okay. But the bottom line is that you can't get the car to run right, so you end up, even something as simple as a TR3, you end up putting a different needle in it to make it run right. And it's just there's no pizzazz in the fuel. So it's harder today when a customer comes into the car, you can almost automatically know that you're going to have to shut off the trim screw, the temperature compensator, all that stuff, because you can't have any more air. You can't get any more air in the carburetor. You got to make sure you shut all that stuff off the carburetor. So, let's see, we talked about that.
Is there anything that you can add to minimize the adverse effect?
Yes, you can go, we use Stable here. There's another one Walmart sells, I think it's something Tron. Startron, thank you. Everybody, there's a bazillion different fuel stabilizers on the market right now. I can't tell you which one actually works the best. I can tell you that I think even though you put fuel stabilizer in there, I don't know how well it works. But the bottom line is, I think if you, let's say 83 octane, 86 octane, it will really last about 2 months. So my way of thinking is, and this doesn't go, everybody always says fill your tank before you put your car away. And I understand that, it won't get moisture in it and so forth and so on. I'm kind of under the assumption that I wouldn't fill my gas tank all the way before I put my car away. Because if I put, actually my wife's car, but if I put her car away in November, let's say, with a full tank of gas and I don't get the car out till May, that means the car's been sitting in the garage with this gas in there and it's got a full tank. So now what do? You try to, is it going to work right? Is it not going to work right? So usually what I tell the customers is just put enough gas in your car to use it that day. So if you're going to put 5 gallons in it, put 5 gallons in it. If you're going to use it a lot, put 10 gallons in it. But the bottom line is you're always putting fresh gas in it. I think I would still use the fuel stabilizer. I don't know, obviously it's doing some good, but I don't think the fuel stabilizer, they'll make all sorts of claims, but I don't know whether that's going to correlate to having like super fresh gas in 6 months.
It may prevent varnish,
Yeah,
but it won't have any octane.
yeah.
Won't have any.
So so the octane goes out, and then
Won't have varnish.
and that's a good point. Right?
My GT6 fuel pump died on me when I tried starting it about a week ago, and it's a relatively new fuel pump, and I blame it on the alcohol deteriorating the rubber. It was a fuel pump from India. They sent me a replacement one from Turkey, so maybe the Turkish rubber.
Yeah. Well, ethanol is a solid, and they've been using ethanol forever in the industrial scene for cleaning parts. So, it has a tendency to dry out rubber, and a lot of us have rubber fuel lines in our car. You gotta have rubber fuel lines in your car. So, right away, it's not uncommon here. We get a car in a lift, and you're looking at they put that little connection between the tank and the feed line, and you're like, oh man, look at this. This is bad. So we change a lot of that stuff. But some of the newer rubber today, some of the rubber that's designed for fuel injection units on newer cars, that seems to be working out well. But it's ethanol is terrible. I mean, it's awful.
You got any suggestions of what to do with the funky gas that you got to drain out of your tank?
Well, you can try to burn it in a lawnmower.
Well, my lawnmower won't even start.
Well, I mean, what we do here is I have a tank out front. It's like a 40-gallon drum. It's not a big size, but I put all my old gas in, and I have Safety Clean come take it away. But it costs me
Yeah,
15
so try
bucks
to
a
take it
gallon.
to the mechanic and he don't even want it.
It's, I think if you can catch it before it separates,
Well, it's shot. Your car won't start, you know. I got 10 gallons in the tank. I got to do something with it.
well, that's kind of what my belief is, that if you know, yes, you might get a little bit of condensation in there and so forth and so on, but you know, the other thing is that you're always putting fresh gas in your car. That's the best thing you can have.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if we're forced to do that, not everybody lives close to an ethanol-free gas station that you can, you know, put better gas in your car. Or, you know, the other option, which is very expensive, but you could get like Sunoco Optimum or something in a 5-gallon can, but who the hell wants to do that? You know, then you got, you know, that's like $8 a gallon or something, so it's just crazy.
I got a creek behind my house, but I don't think they like it.
Well, it does evaporate. It doesn't leave a sheen for long. I'm gonna have Brad step up, and I'm gonna have him talk about his mice and.
Hi, everybody, good morning. My name's Brad, I'm the upholsterer here. Hi, Mike. Anyhow, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit today. We have a couple of different subjects, but first, we have a short film that we're starting, Ross and I are starting, and Matt are starting to do on YouTube. We're trying to do little hints, little helping, little videos on, you know, how to maintain and take care of your British motor car. So if, Ross, if you want to run that. Okay. We have a little video on how to properly store your convertible top. But anyhow, this video shows you how to properly store your top. We're seeing more and more convertible tops come in that are not folded properly. When you put them down, the windows, the plastic is cracking. There's splits, there's seams that are coming apart. Customers say, well, geez, I just bought this 2 years ago. Why is it acting this way? So I had a TR6, a 74 TR6 that I'm demonstrating here. You have MG, you have Jaguar. It's the same principle. You want to make sure that your top is happy, it's folded correctly, and stowed properly. And it should last you quite a long time. So Russell, if you want to go ahead and start this video.
Hello and welcome to Triumph Rescue, our addition to our YouTube videos on how to maintain and upkeep your Triumph or British motor car. Today we're going to talk about convertible tops. We have a beautiful 1974 Triumph TR6 here. It's got a brand new top on and we want to keep it new and we want to keep it in good shape. So our topic today is how to fold your convertible top properly and stow it so when you're going to use it, it will retain its shape and it will also keep you safe, warm, and dry for years to come. Okay, today we're going to talk about folding, where to fold and what to do. Okay, first and foremost, it is very important that we unsnap all of our snaps on either side. So I'm going to take care of that right now. Okay, 1, 2, 3 on this side. come around to the other side with me. I'll show you this side, okay? We're gonna do 1, 2, 3 on this side. While I'm over here, we have Velcro that needs to be released, and then our pin up top opened up. I'm gonna come around back to the other side. Most owners do this themselves, but it's always nice to have somebody give you a hand. If you don't have a hand, it's easily done by yourself, okay? We're gonna take care of this other pin here. Now, the Velcro has been released. Our snaps have been released. Now, the most important thing that I want to show you is up underneath this back bow, up here, there's a series of 5 snaps. You want to make sure that you reach underneath and take care and open up all of these snaps. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've all been released. Now we can proceed with lifting the top carefully and getting everything the way we like it. Okay, so if you want to come around back here with me. Okay, what we're going to do is this last bow that comes across just above the window, we want to see if we can just grab hold here, a little pinch. And what we're going to do is with our other hand, we're going to lift the top up. And you see where this is coming away here? See that? That's what you want. You're releasing everything from the bows underneath. And your top now is just free to, actually, it falls in place. At this time, you want to make sure that you're not pinching any of your top material in the bows themselves. And you just want to take your time to tuck down your steel bows down as far into the corner as possible. Now, what we have here is we have a convertible top that's in great shape, and we want to keep it that way. Okay? I'm showing you now this the glass area, which is actually plastic. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we go to fold our top, we're going to fold on the vinyl. You don't want to fold the window because after a while you're going to start to see a crease there, and as you know, over time, plastic gets brittle and it will crack on you, and then, well, you'll just have to get another top. But we don't want to do that. We want to try and avoid that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fold this window in, this section right here. Okay, I'm going to come to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, as you can see, it's almost wants to form itself down. It's already starting to collapse in. We want to give a little bit of extra helping hand here. Carefully fold our plastic into a nice shape. Now, at this time is you're ready to stow the top with your cover. Cover it naturally has snaps all the way across the back. There should be a couple, 2 underneath. Snap 1, snap 2. And up underneath here, I'm not quite sure if you can get this or not, but there should be a snap underneath here. Can you see this guy? And a snap on the other side. What we're going to do is we're going to take this front edge with the 2 snaps and just gently get underneath there and give that a nice little snap. Now what this is going to do is it's going to keep the front from pulling up when you're driving down the street. And also it's going to keep the top itself in good shape, your stove top. Now we have snaps on either sides. You want to gently pull your snaps across the back here. You have your other snap underneath here. And now you have your convertible top that's been stowed away nicely and neatly. I'm just going to go through and snap a couple of these snaps just to show purpose. But now what this did was we just showed you that folding your convertible top is an important part of keeping your British car looking great and lasting for a long, long time. Convertible tops are a little expensive, but with proper care and maintenance, your top should last quite a long time. Also, I wanted to talk to you about when you put the top back up, just go through the reverse process, unsnap everything. But if you're out during a nice hot summer day, your drive or whatever British car you have, and the top is down, and you know you're going to be returning, later on that evening, and it's going to get a little bit chilly, try and make sure that you put your top up before it actually gets a little chilly on the chilly side, say under 68 to 70 degrees. Because your top is vinyl and it's going to want to shrink. And it's always very hard to get your top up and get these pins in. That's down. Also your snaps on the side, sometimes they're plastic and they will snap off. And also your convertible top, it'll start to, because it's shrunk so much, it'll start to pull apart on the seams of your stitching. And then that and all is all wear and tear. So that basically today is what we wanted to cover. I want to thank you for being along with us. Once again, look for us again. We're Triumph Rescue, Parts Service and Restoration. Look for us again on YouTube, and we'll see you. Happy motoring.
Hey, I'm glad you guys all survived that day. This is a little something that kind of helps out, help you keep your car in great shape and keep your money in your wallet. Yes, sir.
I usually unzip my window before I do that.
You could do that too.
To make a difference.
That's a great idea. But getting back into, once again, when your top gets cold, that window's not going to want to zip up. That's really, those zippers, if it shrinks a quarter of an inch, that zipper is going to pull so hard that it's just going to pop open. So.
And what's this on under YouTube? It's under what?
Russell, would that be under?
It's under Triumph Rescue.
Yeah. Yes.
What about just putting a terry cloth towel to protect the glassine?
Yeah, I see that a lot also. I've seen that, great question. I've seen that a lot. Terry cloth towel, it protects your window, keeps it in great shape. The only thing that it does is it makes it more of a bulge in there for getting your top, your cover on, so snapping
T-shirts material.
Yeah, that's yes.
Brad, I put wiffle golf balls over the two posts.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Keep them poking through. Sure. Yes, sir.
Does the stay fast material affect any different when it's cold?
No, it doesn't want to shrink as much. But once again, it will, as it gets cold, it will get stiffer. So it won't want to cooperate as much. So I know you're out, you're enjoying your British car and you're having a great time at a show, wherever you go, and that's the last thing for your mind is, ooh, my convertible top. But just if you struggle with it a couple of times, you're gonna, kick yourself in the butt and say, well, maybe I'll take 5 minutes, put my top up now, that way my ride home will be great and my top will be good.
That's what mine had this morning.
Yeah. That's a tough one. Yes, sir.
Any problem with keeping it tucked away all summer? Should you maybe middle of the summer open it out, stretch it out again?
Sunshine is great. If you can get your car, if you can get it opened up in the sunshine, it melts and it forms everything. When I put a new convertible top on here, I have to hit it with heat guns. I have to, try and get it as warm as possible. In summertime, it's great because I just basically take it outside and I lay it on the car and just let the sun beat on it. Most tops are black. They get soft. They get really, nicely. They cooperate a little bit more. Put it that way. Yes, sir.
When you're storing, top up, back down.
Oh, top up. Yeah, you want to keep that because then the bows keep it in place. A lot of people fold and store down. You're going to create. It's going to want to stay in that folded position. Yes,
You
ma'am?
also take away a place for mice to live.
Oh, man, I was just gonna say the same thing.
It's up, they can't chew it. Yes, sir.
What do you recommend for treatment about with preservative?
Well, if you have vinyl top, what I put on leather, when I do leather seats or vinyl seats, I put lemon pledge on it. Lemon pledge is great. It doesn't have, if you get a product like, anything from the store, a lot of times they have alcohol in there because that has to hold on to the silicones and then that digs in. And I just hit tops with lemon pledge. It's cheap. The natural lemon oils in there keep things soft and pliable. They should come from the factory already weather coated. So, yeah, you shouldn't really have to put anything on, keep them clean.
Armor All?
Well, Armor All unfortunately is one of the products that has alcohol in there as a.
Use it on the tires.
It also dulls the glass.
Yeah, Armor All is very aggressive. It has alcohol in there because that's a adhesion promoter for the silicones. So the silicone, if you just put silicone on, it'll just come right off. The alcohol bites into your top of your sheet or whatever, and then the silicone can hold on to. So, but in turn, you're drying out because the alcohol is drying out this material, and then you're siliconing, so you're drying out and you're moisturizing it. And sooner or later, you're gonna have to do it again and again. I use lemon pledge. Is it a natural lemon oil?
You recommend a pledge for the tires?
Yeah, I put it on tires. I put it on wood. I put it on seats. On convertible tops. Now, not a stay fast top. We have Matt. We have a product called Novus. It's a it's a light paste. It's for fine scratch. Novus fine scratch. You put that on a terry cloth. Don't ever use paper towels. No, that will scratch your top, your window, and it'll be you just killed your top. Terry cloth. This is Novus.
They make that's number two.
This is number 2.
That's usually what I use here, but they make 1, 2, and 3 depending on the coarseness. That really works well for us here. You might be able to use soft scrub.
It's a little
bit of bleach and soft scrub, but that will that'll clean up a lot.
You put it on a nice terry cloth, a little dab, quarter size, work it in circles, and you'll be surprised. Your glass or your plastic will jump right up, and you'll be able to see through it.
3M has a product also.
3M?
Boulder sheet.
Great, yeah. If you want to go online and look, I'm sure you can find maybe a cheaper product or another product that does the same thing, but you want to do fine scratch remover. You don't want anything that's heavily abrasive. Sir?
Is that something sold locally, or do you have to get online?
Matt?
I bought that from Moss only because, we order just a ton of parts every day. So you can get that, you can go online and buy that. Probably, wherever.
Little small circles.
I'm sure everybody sells it. Eastwood has it, yeah.
Great, guys. All right, yes.
Us tier 3 guys don't get to stay the convertible top of the bag. We have to take it out, put it in a trunk or something like that. I found the glass laying on the glass over time, in the summer, mars the glass.
Yeah.
You always have to put a tissue or something to clean it.
Yeah, any kind of an old t-shirt or something like that, something that's cotton, something that's very, very soft. You just want to, the bottom line here is you want to take care of what you paid for. And carry on. Thank you very much, Russ, if you want to pull that first picture. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about mice. Isn't that cute? Little mousey. Hey, look at his little fuzzy ears. Aren't just great? This mouse, when he gets in your car, turns into that. Look at the bones. Look at all the bones. They're crazy. They just go nuts. They love your car. They will eat everything in your car. They will. I mean, how do they get into your car? Some people call them mice, rodents, varmints, critters. I'll tell you what. They're nasty. Look at this. Check out this seat. What is this? This came from Matt Rover when he first got it. Look at that. I mean, that's crazy, man. They don't care about you. They don't care about this.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Does anybody here have a light green Fiat?
Yeah.
Would you mind moving that, Mike? Thank you.
Okay, you've got to go. But mice, yeah, they're extremely destructive. How do they get it? A mouse can get into the size of a dime will squeeze through. And we're just going to try and talk a little bit about some preventative measures, what you can do, how do they get in, how can you protect your investment, what do they eat or destroy. You know, the first thing you do is there's different myths about poisons. You know, you can try and use different poisons you buy at the store. We have a couple of pictures here of just some of the stuff that we. This is a 62 Ford Galaxy that we restored. The mice got up in there and just really, they went at it. And they had a great time. They were partying big time. Here's other shots here. This is all up underneath it. The dark spots there is all the mouse urine droppings, and there's so much acidic residue in there and so much ammonia that it'll strip color, and it smells really, really bad, and you just basically you have to take everything out, and that all costs money. When I deal with mouse stuff, boy, I'll tell you what, I get home and I run for the shower because you have to put mask on, because breathing in all that stuff that comes out of the butt of a mouse is just really bad. It causes, you know, yeah, that's all, I mean, they cause plagues. There's part of the stuff that we're pulling down. Beth took these pictures, by the way. Where's that? She's very courageous. This is a Spitfire that we had in. Customer, you know, concerned, complaining about smell in his car that he wanted to, you know, get it restored up. Okay, it looked pretty good, but here you can see where they nibble, take that, and then go in here and make their little condo. It's hard to get them out, you know, it's hard to kick them out. But, you know, and I take the seats over, still have my mask on, and I try to open things up and look in there, the straps, and you can see just the amount of destruction that they do is just really, it's horrible. Yeah, it's gross, but that's what came out. And, you know, there are signs that you can tell there's a mouse in there. There's droppings. They're not too particular where they want to drop stuff. So, you know, if you see that, you know, you got to be proactive. You got to say, oh, you know, that mouse is destroying my investment. You get a lot of money for these cars. And, you know, Lord knows you want to keep them the way you want them, not how my spare tire. We opened up the trunk, and it was just full of, you know, it was just spare tire. And, you know, no big deal, we go to take the spare tire out. That's like the Taj Mahal. Look at the height that up, and it perfectly forms inside the spare tire. It's disgusting. So the first thing I do is I ask Shane. I just want to show you guys Shane. Mask on, gloves on. Don't touch this stuff. Just get it in a bag and get it outside your house. Tie it up, get it in the garbage, because it's just, I mean, the smell of it, I mean, it'll knock you right over. This is the trunk, this is the trunk underneath. This is where when all the urine went down there, and it's so corrosive that it ate right through the paint, right into the metal, and you know, you have to scrape this stuff. It's really, it's nasty. You know, some pictures, more pictures. This was basically the tunnel, the inside of the car. This gas tank. They found their way up behind. So they're so tiny. They get in and they're busy. They're working. They're running over to your seat. They're taking a bite out of the seat. They're running over two. They're running over. They're taking a bite out of the seat two, and they're just building their house. They're thinking this is the best property, man. The landlord, I don't got to pay him nothing. Yeah, this is actually from the Galaxy. This is the heater box. Okay, so yeah, they went to town in there. They're not your friends. Sometimes, if you would go to turn this heater box on, and if it did work, all this stuff would be in your face. So you gotta really, when you store your car for a month, 2 months, a year, you have to be really aware of his stuff. You know, he's fuzzy and stuff, but you know, he's not your pal. you know? He is handy, absolutely. So, poison, you can go through a couple of things here. Poison. Oh, yes, sir.
Do them electronic things work that you put into the plug?
Yeah, that's where we're gonna touch on that in a second. There's a couple of good things, a couple of interesting things. With poison, what that does is they eat the poison, they get very thirsty. It wants to dehydrate them out. When they go out of your car to get a drink of water or something, wherever they're coming from, they drink the water and that's when it activates the poison. So it's water activated. And then they hopefully die before they get back in your car. Mothballs. I'm sure a lot of you guys have tried this kind of stuff. Sometimes they work, sometimes they won't. But the one thing about mothballs is you put these in your car, man, it stinks. It just, people, hey, look at the tri-vertic, ooh. Got in there. There's this stuff, mouse blocker. Online, I just have I'll leave a couple of these things up there that you guys can take a peek. This mouse blocker on www.mouseblocker.com. This is a 12 volt that you plug right into your or whatever you have. You can even run some cables up to your battery or whatever. It's an ultra high frequency device that supposedly the mice don't like. I read some reviews online. Some of the reviews say yes, some say no. So it all depends if your mouse has earplugs or something, or likes rock and roll. Antifreeze. There's actually online a deterrent. Is you put a small, shallow dish of antifreeze on your floor of your car. Mouse gets in there. And they always say about with animals that you want to keep them away from your antifreeze. Like if you change yours, you keep your dog away because actually it's sweet to taste to animals. So the rodents, they'll drink that and say, oh, great Kool-Aid, And then they'll go and they'll die. But you don't want them to die up in your tubes or anything up in your, defrost tubes or whatever. So that's kind of like another myth. Peppermint. McCormick peppermint. You can get this peppermint oil, fresh. Get this at your grocery store, it's a couple of bucks. This is supposed to work too. There's another myth on that. I don't know. It smells pretty good. But you can give it a try. These are all things that once they're in, you want to get them out. Because they're chewing on your wires, they're eating up your seats. Dryer sheets. Snuggle. I don't know if this guy's going to do it. I'm sorry. Snuggle. Bounce. This little guy, I could see him tangling with this guy. Okay. There's this thing called Guard Father online too. Once again, I'll keep this up here if you guys want to type this down. Guard Father is a shallow plate. Okay. And it says right here, just add peppermint oil soaked in cotton, so basically it's a dish with a top on it that is a vented top, and it's got a magnet on it. So you get cotton, you put your peppermint on there or something, and then it's got a magnet. You stick it in your car. On the inside, up underneath your dash, a lot of these varmints come through your engine compartment, and that's how they get through your firewall. So this is kind of a neat product. Go online to check out the price. I don't know how much it costs, but give it a shot. Or mothballs, it says you can put in there. Last but not least, we have this Fresh Cab Rodent Repellent. So that it's the only natural pest repellent. Shane brought this stuff in. His dad's a trucker, and he says that he uses this all the time. I guess you're gonna have to deal with this kind of stuff, but I think the best thing to do is to be diligent with your car. It's in storage, just go visit it for a month. There's my baby. I can't wait till it's springtime so we can just put the top down and get on out of here. Yes.
One of the things that I found actually talking to exterminator first was to keep them on your car is to attract them somewhere else.
Oh.
So setting a lot of traps at 9/11 in a big shed. And then what I did was I took the mothballs and I put them in a white sock and tie.
Oh, there you go.
And then I just put paper down and close it up.
Yeah.
And you know what, before you're gonna use it, you open the windows, put the fan there, and
Right,
hours,
right, you got the,
it's okay, and it
yeah,
worked.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
I put mothballs in the sock and put them on my mailbox to keep the bees out.
Yeah, I did some Healy seats already, and this gentleman, it was on 106, gorgeous Healy, and I got his seats, I started taking apart, and I told him that there was a mouse living in there. He said, no, it's in sealed compartment, no. So what I did was I cut the seats on a diagonal, I took a picture of them. There's acorns in there, there's real TV set, you know. And I showed him, I said, he's like, you know, but you think you got it, you know.
No, he told you it's a quick story, but it's not mice, it's chipmunks. I was redoing the big heel, and I took the gas tank out, and I had it in the shed, and they filled the gas tank with hippie nuts.
Oh.
You know what it's like to throw the nuts out of there? You know what I did? I threw the tank coming off.
Yeah, because Lord knows what's in there, right? So basically, you know, you just want to be proactive. You want to check your car out. Just go look and look around. Look underneath your seat. Get underneath there with flashlight because they do drop you all around. So that's pretty much what I have for you guys today. If there's any more questions, yes, sir.
I just talked to an old timer who had an old Triumph, and what he did, he took very fine steel wool and poked it in all orifices.
Yeah, they want to steal wool, right? Chip. I'm sorry, do I have any beer? What?
Have anything for deer?
Two break Anybody else have any questions at all about interior stuff, convertible tops, carpeting, electric?
Sure, you suggesting as a pledge on any kind of head dash, vinyl, any
Yes,
vinyl.
when I spray it on the cloth. Don't spray it on your vehicle because it gets into where you can't get a cloth into it. I run right across the dash, convertible tops, dash right onto the wood, if you have a TR6, right down steering wheel, because it's not slimy and it's not sticky. It's great, smells great. Seats around back. Even if you get some on your plastic window, it just wipes right off. It's a great car. It's cheap, and everybody's got it.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, holy cow, I don't know about that. That will go up when you want to see that car. Yes, sir.
On the Eastwood Dynamat in the Aston Martin there in the door. The sound deadener.
Yeah, yes.
That stuff's really expensive.
It is.
Obviously. Is that really outperform the stuff you can get at Lowe's? You know, and it's got the same pipe.
We only use the Eastwood stuff. It is expensive, but sometimes you get what you pay for.
You know, there's a lot of stuff on the market, and just because it says Eastwood, it's like buying Snap-on tools. It doesn't necessarily make it's gonna, do a better job.
I just assumed it was Dynamat. They put their name on it.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure Eastwood can't, develop that.
As an insulator, the quilted aluminum-ized paper on the closed cell is pretty good. I've got double layers on my MGB because those run a little warm.
Right.
But the roofing tape that you can buy at Home Depot, it's about 8 inches wide.
Yeah.
Tar backing, peel it off.
Yeah.
You're looking for a sound deadener.
Yeah, that's
even body, floor repair.
Right.
It works all.
Anything that's really dense. But the trick is doing that stuff, when I put that in the TV5, is pre-fit everything before you peel out. Once it goes wrong, that's it. You're going to have to call a mouse in. I would put regular oil in the roof.
But here again, that's just my preference because, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, if you read what Quantum Mechanics recommends, a straight 30 weight non-detergent oil, which you can buy at Tractor Supply pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what they say.
Well, you know, if you look at the broad spectrum, all of our cars use the same motor drive. Most of them. You know, even the Volvo, you know, they use a J-type or whatever. But if you look in the manuals, they all say something different to put in your transmission. So, you know, MGB is 30 weight. You know, Triumph is AEW90. So,
I don't think I've attributed bring up every 5 years, so you've heard this, I apologize. Which is heavier, 30 weight engine oil and viscosity, 30 weight engine oil or 90 weight gear oil?
It was the same.
Well, I guess you were here 5 years ago.
Sorry, I should have come on that. Oh, was that
I was saying, they're measured at different temperatures.
Yes, and 20, the W stands for winter, but the 20W50 is the same viscosity as the 80W90.
So, yeah.
You know, so the bottom line is,
you think it's not thick enough for transmission,
yeah.
that's fine.
So, and really, you know, everybody specs a different oil for their transmission, but it's basically the same transmission. So, and the transmission doesn't know whether it's behind a Jaguar or a Boston Healy or a Triumph. So,
You can still get GL4 and GL5 combo from Napa.
yes. Yeah, that's what we went to. But here again, you know, you get set in your ways and you like a certain oil. And like I started talking about rotors before, you know, well, what's the rocket science behind a rotor? Well, you know, how hard could it be? But that's a frustrating part. But we're going to, as you saw, everybody got a ticket. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Change the subject.
Yeah, please.
Where's the wisdom on brake fluid? What kind of fluid do you use? Periodically flushing the system?
Brake fluid will absorb, actually brake fluid will evaporate. That's one thing you don't need to have. And the other thing is that it absorbs moisture. Now, we do put silicone in here once in a while. I don't like silicone. I've never been a big fan of it. It makes my tools slippery. It's crazy when it gets on the floor. And it's very hard to get a silicone. Silicone will leak out of something that regular brake fluid will not. I have not figured it out yet, but we have gone round and round with trying to bleed a silicone. If a customer wants silicone in their car, we've gone round and round trying to get this car to work with silicone brake fluid. I don't know 100% whether all the parts are silicone friendly. You know, I think a lot of the parts out there today require you to use a regular brake fluid. But that doesn't mean that we haven't done it and it's worked well. We won't eat the paint. So, I mean, it does have some attributes that make it very nice. But at the same token, and I don't know whether maybe Ken could add something to it, but we have an awful time with putting silicone in a car.
Can I add something then too?
What's that?
Not to interrupt you, but I was reading about that when I was doing my Galaxy personally. The silicone, you got to watch if you have power brakes, and you got to make sure that your master cylinder is sealed very, very well, because what can happen is it can actually suck small molecules, that silicone, through the power booster, and then the vacuum is supplied by the engine naturally. What happens is if it gets down in the engine, it can actually burn, and silicone when it burns turns to sand. So it can eat up rings, bearings, so it's just one thing you want to watch out. Yeah, manual brakes, you don't have an issue. But it is something, you know, to think about.
So, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, two things. One about silicon brake fluid. Silicon brake fluid is somewhat compressible.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to get, if not impossible, to get a good solid pedal. Even when things are right, it feels like there might be some air in it. And if you look at the parts that you buy, typically the box or a notice in there will say voids the warranty of the part. you use silicon brake fluid. I've used silicon brake fluid in my cars for 15 years. Some. We've also had brake systems lock up. The silicon swells some of the seals depending on how they react. And they'll block off the port back into the master cylinder. The brakes will go on, you can't get them off. You got to crack the bleeder, drive home with a parking brake, that kind of thing. So normally I would say you have about a 50-50 chance of satisfactory service if you put silicon. It's a gamble. It has its good points, it has its bad points. But it's a gamble. You don't have to worry about the moisture getting in the system and stuff like that. There's an expense in one way or another in having these old cars and keeping them going.
Is that?
Don't use silicone is the message I'm getting.
Well, you know, I bet it's 95% here that we put regular brake fluid in a car. And it's, you know, but we try to appease the customer, and if that's what he wants in his car, we try to do it. But it's not as simple. I mean, sometimes it's hard enough to bleed these cars. We tried to bleed that Aston Martin, and it was like, holy crap. I mean, that thing took us forever. But it, you know, you want to do your best job that you can do, and silicone can just be a pain. But
Speaking of the Aston, will that be here next year?
no.
Are you sure?
Oh. I'm going to go right on camera. That car, in 2 months from now, that car is practically out of here. I'm smart enough to be a little better. But our whole premise about that car is to get on we want to get on the show circuit. And we want to get that thing out, and I mean, everybody's dying to drive it, but we want to get it out, and it really, Brad has the interior all done. We got to do the convertible top, the car runs, so we got the brake system done, thank God. And you know, I signed it up for Radnor Hunt. They accepted the car, so now trying to get to maybe a couple of GVT shows, maybe Hellertown. Get it out there. I mean, it deserves to be.
There can't be many convertible DB5s.
I think it's one of 17. 125 were made, 24 are convertible, left-hand drive. So,
Is the air conditioner going to work?
you have to ask Ross.
It will work, so that's what we have left.
But anyway, long story short, yes, that car will not be here. I'll go on record. But we're looking forward to getting it done. Now, what I did is, as everybody knows, I have a fetish about fire extinguishers. I have it's called Hail Guard, but it's Hail. I'm going to raffle this off. So, does everybody have a ticket?
No.
Good, hurry up and pull it. And we're ready for lunch. I thought I'd do this now because sometimes I have lunch, with this first and stuff, so. Now, I would appreciate not seeing this on eBay on Monday.
And you also hope nobody ever has to use it.
Yes. It does have a gauge on it, though.
Just take one. They're already full. We already have the other half.
So we'll let everybody get a ticket, make sure everybody's okay with that, and then I think John. Anybody else? I think John has 2 tickets. One more back. But again, if anybody has any questions, there's a lot of knowledge here in the room. I mean, you don't necessarily have to ask me. I mean, everybody here has something to add, something that has worked for them. So, if you have a question or something, go. Okay, we're all set. So here we go. No favoritism here. Okay. I know. The eye doctor has been pestering me for the last 5 years to get bifocals. I'm like, no way.
They don't work.
So I've got, we could probably, I'll do the last three numbers. 9, 5, 6. Now, I would tell him to use this in good health, but I'm not going to do that. Thank you very much.
Have a winner.
Yeah. So at this point, we're all, I think we're a go for lunch.
That way?
And if you want to go through this room, and then we'll come out back here. And like I said, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. And